Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the markets. That's the main stock market, the crypto market, and any other market where we can make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We have oil trading to $97, down to 95 now, as American oil executives warn Trump, whilst more Iranian and UAE sites are hit, and the Dubai airport has been closed this morning. Crypto strong as Bitcoin is moving higher to 73K. Crypto is showing incredible resilience here. So we'll talk about that. And finally, the Ethereum Foundation shares the crops mandate. This was after the show on Friday last week, which I think is interesting. It's pushing forward on censorship, resistance, open source, privacy, and security. So looking forward to that conversation today. We've also got the latest on price action and our general market thoughts as always, so stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary in the co-host seat and Brett back from his little trip to the other side of the world, so we're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. The market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment at all times. With that out of the way, coming straight to you, Brett. How are you doing? It's Monday, the 16th of March. You've been away around the other side of the world doing God knows what. How are you, and how are you feeling?
You would come straight to me when I'm trying to figure out some audio stuff. How do I sound? How do I look? It's been so long that I need to do these AV checks now. How you been?
Looking good. Sounding good. How are you
Love it.
feeling? Are you feeling good as well?
Feeling refreshed. You can't see it because I have a hat on, but I'm feeling. I actually can now see it. I have a little bit of tan line here because I wear my hat as I do on the show out in the real world, and I got burnt. And we were doing some hiking and stuff. We were down in New Zealand. It was great, and I kept getting lit up by the sun, and yeah, it left me with some scars. Not scars, but I'm about fucking burnt. And I got a hat tan line now.
You didn't think to adjust the hat? You didn't want to even it out at any point?
You do those things, but then you don't, and you forget about it, and then the world takes over. So, but it's great. I had an awesome time. I was still tapped in for most of it. I'm trying to keep up with the world. It's hard for me to turn this stuff off entirely, but I did my best to disconnect, and some parts of the world just straight up wouldn't let me. But beautiful part of the country, or the world. Very excited, and maybe actually want to try to go back longer term at some point. Wanaka it's an awesome city.
Did you stay in one place, or did you trek New Zealand fully, or to the extent that
that's New Zealand's a lot. So we did like 10 days, 12 days, whatever it was, on the South Island. So we did it's like a road trip. It's where we 2 days in one place, 2 days in another place, 2 days in another place, and we just every day we're bouncing around to somewhere new to try to see as much as we could.
Nice. Sounds fun.
But excited to be back.
Experience AI FOMO?
What is it?
Did you experience AI FOMO? Like missing out on new models, tools, agents?
Yeah, a little bit. Not horribly. It was more that I felt like I was doing decent keeping up, but yeah, you're right. There's always that call of oh, I want to get my hands on it. So it's I had a bunch of presents waiting for me when I got back of all this new stuff I wanted to touch and do and whatever, but I couldn't really do it there because I was on my phone, which you could do some stuff. It's actually really helpful. Obviously I had my Claude bot on through Telegram. So while I'm going and doing this shit, I might be driving halfway. I built an application on the plane on the way back because all you have on the plane is, and you actually, they give you free messaging. Right? Oh, you could text your friends, and that's about it. Your internet's dog shit.
That is true, actually. Yeah.
I can text my robot. My robot was able to build all kinds of shit for me while I was on my way back. He was researching stuff. We were trying to build a website and do some shit. So we did decent progress.
Yeah, that gives a different utility to the text-only functionality on planes, right? Because that's always one thing. It's okay, well, you can get the free SMS or free messaging, but then they think that they're cutting you out from the real world and you've got to pay more. Not anymore. Not anymore. Get your agent to do all the stuff on the internet for you. Interesting. Okay, well, that's fun. Good to have you back with us, and got a good headline for you to get into today, which is right up your street. But want some general thoughts from you on what's going on in the world as well, because a lot has happened since you went away. Curious for your general perspective on what's been going on. Ledge, what's going on your side before we get into the main stuff today?
I just want Brett to be aware that I, on purpose, did hold back on sending you new AI stuff, tooling. I didn't want to make you FOMO. I wanted you to enjoy your holidays. I didn't send you a single thing, although I was very, very tempted sometimes. That was took me a lot of discipline, to be honest, to that. So just wanted to let you know that.
I'm gonna hold it against you because I wanted that stuff. Because I did a lot of driving, and while that was happening, I needed some reading material.
Well, Brett, you can't read when you're driving.
Not only driving, but so I was driving a lot of the.
Or you meant you needed some reading material for your agent while you were driving.
No, well, I mean, we tried to swap, and there was a lot of driving. Like we had a 6-hour day, a 4-hour day, like and a 2-hour day. Like so, we did a lot of driving. But no, whenever she was taking over, yeah, I needed something. And I do want to say, I put this tweet out yesterday. It's opposite down there, right? So the driving on the left side of the road.
You mean the right side, the correct side?
The correct side of the road, yes, for them. And the driving seats on the right side of the car. And I just want to say, man, I parallel parked while in upside down world, and I fucking dominated. I'm really good at parallel parking. I put out a tweet yesterday. I genuinely think I could like place in some kind of world championship if there was a parallel parking world championship.
With the parallel parking championship in Pittsburgh, there is actually such a thing, and the way it works.
Really?
Yes, I sent you. It's in your comments. Like check the YouTube link. The way it works, basically, they are clocking your time. Like how long does it take you to parallel park? And then they are measuring distance from your tires to the curb. And obviously you want to have low distance and fast parking, and that is a custom score, and that will determine if you win or not. But if you were to touch the curb, you are automatically disqualified. So
love it.
If
me and Oxy, you're gonna go
the test.
Oxy will the show will sponsor you. Oxy, me and you, we're gonna go. We're gonna dominate.
That is hilarious. Also, why is parallel parking a thing that you just discovered you can do in New Zealand? Do you not have to do that where you live?
No, I do. It's just that I had to do everything opposite, right? So it's like, I do it. I'm really good.
Oh, so this was like confirmation. Like even on the opposite side, I'm still so good at this.
Everything is inverted, and I just nailed it several times instantly. And I'm like, guys, I think I have a talent. There's something here.
Okay. I understand where the confidence is now coming from. You've done it on one side of the globe, you've done it on the other side of the globe now. Take him to the championships. I understand. All right. Right. That is a good start to the show. Good to have you back. Let's get into the main stuff to get you up to speed with everything else you need to know aside from the parallel parking main championships. Bitcoin is up 3%, which is pretty good news too. Almost pushing towards 74K. That's pretty good. Up almost 9% on the week. ETH is up 7% to almost 2.3K, up 13% in the week. BNB is up a couple of percent as well to $678. XRP is up 4% to almost $1.50. Sol is up 6% to almost $94. And Hype is up 5% to just above $39, now knocking on the door of 40, up 26% in the last 7 days. Definitely want to talk about this relative strength in crypto again. Let's talk the memes now. Doge is up 4%, back above 10 cents. Pepe is up 17%. We have Bonk up 8%. Trump is down 3% after the pump last week before the new announcement of the lunch utility for the Trump token. Pippin's down a couple of percent. SPX is up 8%. Generally green day. Fartcoin is up 14% as well. Generally green day across the board on the more meme side of things. Getting into the headlines themselves that we are talking about today, and some of the other important news around the space. We've got oil trading up to around $95 now, I think, as American oil executives warn Trump whilst more Iranian UAE sites have been hit. And the Dubai airport has been closed. So there's a whole bunch of bits and pieces of news that I've tried to piece together to get you up to speed on what's been going on over the weekend. Very complicated. I'll do that in a little bit as best I can. Crypto is strong, as we just mentioned. Bitcoin's moved to 73K. We'll touch on why that is. Legendary will take that, and then Brad will talk us through Ethereum Foundation sharing the crops mandate to push forward censorship, resistance, open source, privacy, and security. I quite like that news, although I saw some people criticize it. So curious for Bread's perspective. Getting into some other news, Tau is up to $277. That's a big move over the last 7 days as well. Pengu's up 9%, Pepe's up 20%. Aave's cut routine token buybacks by 40% due to decline in revenues. ETH Foundation sells 5,000 ETH to Bitminer of Tom Lee for $10 million OTC. The investor Stan Druckenmiller predicts that stablecoins will power all payments in 10 to 15 years. I think that is a decent take, although his general perspective on crypto, I think, is quite bearish for the other tokens that are worthless. Katana announces pre-staking live in the Katana app. And finally, MetaPlanet announces $255 million private placement raised to move towards the goal of acquiring 210,000 Bitcoin. Those are the headlines. Those are the other bits of news that you need to know from the weekend. I would say less general news taking place at the moment, less people coming out with news, because I wouldn't be surprised. There's so much going on the macro side, so much going on the global stage, that it is hard to pay attention to much else, to be completely honest, at the moment. So that's where our focus again will be today, although we will try to get to the core crypto components as well. That's what you need to know. Before we get to the main stuff, guys, just checking in with what's catching your attention, maybe starting with you, Bread. What's been, maybe a bit more of an open question for you. So anything catching your attention today, aside from the main stuff, or anything that's been on your mind over the last couple of weeks as you had a bit of chance to reflect on the industry, on the space, and where things are going?
No, so like the span of the last few weeks, no, I'm mostly just like, as you guys know me, I'm not a big chart watcher. So a lot of my stuff was just like, oh, what exciting stuff can I build? What should I, like, it's all very personal focus, me, Maggie, and like what we could do going forward. So all my energy was there while I was away. Not a lot of reflecting on macro stuff. But I do have some of that here in the market roundup that stuck out to me that I think is relevant. So first was the war citation, or like talking about the Dubai shutting down the airports. It's actually a funny note because we have had several team members located in Dubai. I said it's funny. It's actually not funny. They were getting rockets shot at them. But, like our co-founder, Bing, Shuyao, and Ishan is another member of our team. They were there and they got out because they understood the war economics of like what was going on in Dubai, and realized that like what was in place was actually not long for the world that they were in, right? So they're seeing that, it costs $20,000 to launch a rocket and $100 million to like take down that rocket, and it's just like it's a war of attrition, and they're ultimately going to be screwed because the interceptors cost way more, and like it's just eventually they'll win. And it actually reminded me a lot of these crypto principles we talked about before, where like farmers try to like farm the American government by doing civil attacks on like crop layouts and it's the same exact stuff. And it's just, I'm always reminded of how much like the basic fundamental human behavioral like tendencies that we see every single day and like have to account for map to everything from farming crop subsidies to attacking another nation. It's insane. Humans are human. I see you want to say something. I'll pause there.
You just did the crypto equivalent of LinkedIn, what living in the war zone taught me about B2B sales.
Yeah, it's insane. But like unironically for me.
I know what you mean though, because I think I've told this story a couple of times already. Like when, just as a random example, I'm not equating playing a board game with making your decisions around getting out of a war zone, but after I hadn't played Monopoly in multiple years, or maybe even a decade or something, and then I played it again after I've been in crypto and after I'd started doing the stuff that we've been doing, and I realized my whole brain worked a completely different way. Like the risk engine in my brain now is built realistically quite well, like but it just thought in completely different ways. It was evaluating risk in completely different ways. It was thinking about when to go all in a bit better. I suspect it's something similar to poker, although that's not my game specifically. And you're right. You start to analyze the risk. The way I think about it is just risk reward. Everything in the world is risk reward, and crypto. In order, if you survive in crypto, you must have decent risk reward management. Like you have to. You can't survive here if you don't, because you get tempted into all kinds of things and you just get completely wrecked, right? And so the survivors, people who've been here in 3, 4, 5 or more years, must have managed their risk properly at some point. Otherwise, they would have been destroyed. I think that is fair to say. So I think what you're speaking to is that kind of inbuilt, or that building up of that capability, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was you saying that, I was gonna like, or you just ignore it all like me and you're all, but then I was like, well, actually, like the reason I ignore stuff is because I realize I can't win. Like if I constantly chase stuff, it's like, it's just not worth my time and energy because I can't keep up with it and feel like I have edge. And so I guess that is in effect a risk reward.
Yeah,
analysis.
That's your way to manage your risk. Because if you know that if you got involved in certain things, you'd put yourself in a bad position.
So one other thing before I transition is the stablecoins will power all payments from Druckenmiller. Obviously exciting, bullish for our bags. I think we all agree on a fundamental level, like whenever technology is better or the costs are just better, like the world is going to gravitate towards something, like even if they hate it, like they hate the name of it, but like, bro, if it saves them 5%, 10%, you know what, you're probably going to adopt the thing and probably going to bull post it, as like we're seeing with the founder of, was it Chase, the guy who hated crypto, and then now he's like, oh, it's the future of France. It's same shit everywhere. But my thing is like, we've talked in the past about how these arcs are always gonna, like, we've already run the arcs, right? Like we did all of the stuff, like, oh, first it's oh, you have your regular token, then you're like, oh, well, then you have DeFi, and oh, and then you have NFTs, and oh, like we went down these different waves, these different cycles, but we experienced them all firsthand, rapid fire, or like compressed in the course of a year, 2 years, whatever. The rest of the world is going to go through those same things because the things are fundamentally good. It just takes a way longer time to actually be matriculated out throughout the rest of the world. And my thing is, you see stablecoins, I think we all agree they're going to be good. They're going to be powerful. They're going to take over a lot of stuff. You know, whether that extends to agentic stuff is another discussion, but you know, I obviously believe that's true. I think, and what stablecoins fundamentally do, if you think about it, is stablecoins get everyone in the world to zero, right? Because there's like a huge swath of people in the world that are holding things, and just by holding things, they're getting negative returns, right? Through deflation, through, you know, all of these things, and that's going to get everyone to zero. Like as an American, stablecoins don't really pop off because it's like, well, you know, it's like, bro, I have $1. I don't need another $1. I have $1. But it's crazy, and you know, a third world country that is, you know, getting ravaged by their government. So once this actually does proliferate, and once it gets everyone to zero relatively, I think the next big thing is just going to be like, okay, what do you do with it? Right? Everyone's going to start seeking +1, +5, +10, right? And like that is DeFi. So I hate seeing a 10 to 15 year time frame, because that means like the DeFi wave is then potentially a 15 to 20 year timeline, maybe even longer. But I think it is just inevitable that you start stable coins. It is the simplest thing. It's literally just a digital dollar, gets everyone to zero. And then everyone's gonna go, how do I plug this into something to get additional yield? And then that's the 5, 10, 15% of DeFi. And then all of this stuff continues to go up. So I don't know, just a vote of confidence for this industry. I haven't wavered, but I think it's helpful to articulate sometimes.
Yeah, definitely agree with that thesis. I think it wasn't necessary. We kind of missed the expression of that, right? We spoke on the show the other day how a Circle had run, Circle being the issuer for USDC, the main competitor to USDT, Tether's version of a USD stablecoin, and how it had run up huge in the last week or so when we talked about it last week. It's up now. We're looking at this chart on the month, up 87% in the month. Nice. I think after a little bit of a period of time where stablecoin supply on chain had plateaued and was edging down, it started to pick up again. And one thing I would say about that, two things maybe. One is that I think the general conflict around the world will make people think it's easier to move this money as well, even if it's dollars and people think, oh, okay, maybe Circle can freeze dollars. Okay, fine, they can. But if your money is in Dubai, and to be clear, I don't know, this was like an anecdote. Someone might have had a lot of money in Dubai. Someone said, well, the bank just had started limiting transfers out and stuff like that, or withdrawals. And so that's not even a, someone's going to, America is going to freeze your assets question. That's just a bank being difficult, not restricting your assets, which at least that part is taken away from stablecoins, right? Because so long as Circle don't freeze them, you want to move, you're in Dubai, you get a bit stressed, you feel like you need to get out of the country, you would prefer to be somewhere else for a period of time to see how it goes, and you want to still to be able to transact, you can, because your stablecoins are in your wallet. So I think that could be part of it. And then also just a broader point, the general stablecoin, we haven't brought it up on the show for a while, but the general stablecoin TVL on chain, or if you like watch those charts, they actually really correlate very much with Bitcoin. And when it starts tracking up again, like Bitcoin has been doing recently, you can often see that stablecoin numbers have been going up. And then when it starts, I don't know which one's leading and which one's lagging, but they tend to move together.
Yeah, we're all-time high right now.
Yeah. After plateauing for a while, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a crazy shoot up, but yeah, it's been plateauing since what looks like late October. So that's, I mean, the big liquidation event was on the 10th, right? 10th of October. So it's been basically sideways since then, which it was an all-time high then, and it is now 7 billion higher. So it's 310 at the time, whatever it was. Yeah, 310 at the time to now 315. So it's not like it's a huge uptick, but
sure. Yeah. Interesting. Good stuff. Yeah, appreciate the thought. Ledge, did you have something to come in on Circle? I saw you were bringing up the chart at the same time as I wanted to talk about it.
No, you guys discussed all of that. I would have one other small thing before you get into the main headlines.
Let's do it.
That is, wait, I need to bring it up again because I was doing this chart now. It is to do with this spring break event, if you want to call it like that, by Anthropic for Claude Code. So basically what they're doing over the next 2 weeks, they are increasing limits for usage by 2x outside of peak hours and on the weekends. That obviously it means something completely different depending on what time zone you're in. So for example, from a European perspective, that means from 2 to 8 p.m. so morning plus evening, you have 2x, from 8 p.m. to 2 p.m. the next day, you have twice the usage limits. And a lot of people have been wondering why they're doing that. And someone made this point that I thought was really smart, because if you now 2x limits outside of peak hours, and that's something that Codex has been doing with trying to get people to use the app, not peak hours, but just app usage gets twice the spend, that in case that they're cutting the limits after that, you probably won't have such an easy time to notice that. And again, kind of highlighting how much or how strongly the subscriptions are subsidized by risk capital, which is investing into these companies. Because I did a little test with my stack of DM and seeing how much Opus usage I can get out of that. And it's absurd. Like, I burn through 20 DM, which is, what is it, 15K worth of tokens that I have, 15K worth of tokens that I have staked in like less than half an hour if I work with Opus. And obviously, if you look at the corporate pricing, because corporates don't get the same price for the subscriptions as us lucky retail users do, they pay like 9x more than we are doing. So it is crazy to see that we basically get a 90%-ish discount on what others are paying to get that compute.
I heard or saw that, and I haven't tracked it closely, but this 2x is actually coinciding with a reduction in tokens for people on Claude. So like that is partly why they did it. So it was,
it's already done. It's not a future thing. Interesting.
Well, so I mean, again, I haven't verified this myself, so grain of salt. But some people on the timeline were showcasing, because like a lot of the token limits are not actually well documented, known, whatever. And they're pretty variable. They're constantly changing the prices, the names, the whatever of all this stuff. And someone was like, if you've actually been tracking closely, prior to this, the token amount that you were actually able to get in a single Claude max plan or whatever actually seemingly went down like the week prior, and then they 2x all of this stuff. So then everyone's like, oh, cool, like now we're 2x, which gets you back to like what normal was, and then they slowly wean you off it. So it's just like a transition marketing plan, effectively. Again, grain of salt, because I didn't verify myself, but it would make sense, and it would be savvy if that's what they did.
I thought it's something that they will do forward looking, but also completely could work out the way it does. Especially, it's not as transparent to figure out like how high your token usage is and what it means for your limits exactly. Like, it's not of course you can do it and you can track that. And there's stuff like Codex Bar by Peter Steinberger, which is a great plugin that makes that even easier. But it's not as trivial as, I don't know, Netflix is bumping your subscription by $3 a month, and you would immediately notice that because they have to notify you about that. So it's definitely a bit more tricky to actually see how that is changing over time.
Did you guys talk about the context window bump?
Not really, but the key takeaway here is that now all of the Opus models have been bumped to 1 million context window as per default. The way it used to work before that is you could activate the beta flag, but basically for each token that is above what was the initial context window of 200, 250K, you would pay double the price. Basically, you're filling your context window from 250K to 1 million tokens, you would pay double the price of what you did before. And now they did reduce that to just being standard pricing and 1 million context window per default. And I know what your pushback is going to be on that, which is to do that memory still strongly degrading over a longer session, and it's not always in your best interest to like fully use that context window unless you work with a memory layer or something that is helping you to keep Claude or Codex for that matter, or even Grok. Grok has a 2 million context window in the 4.2 beta throughout the longer session.
Damn. Yeah, like, I mean, it was notable how well Opus is actually performing really well at that level, like relatively speaking, right? Like basically all the frontier models degrade from a like competent coworker that maybe you have to ask questions to or verify to like a small child. So like they're basically functionally useless. Whereas Opus 4.6 now is actually showing with that context window expansion, it's actually still pretty good. Like I won't use it because it still degrades, like you said, but it's like the fact that it's kind of going beyond that bound that you and I had initially discussed. That's why we did the whole like fucking party thing, like the questing party shit, because we wanted to like be able to sparse out or spread out tasks into these smaller context windows effectively. But the fact that they're able to get past that and still hold up pretty well is a good sign for the future that like this stuff is just going to continue to break maybe even things that we thought were fundamental laws.
Yeah. It's the main reason, by the way, why I updated my GigaBrain, which I don't know, probably haven't seen it yet. It's already on GitHub.
I saw, yeah.
To support Claude Code as well. So it just can help Opus a bit better to manage a longer 1 million context window.
Nice.
Interesting stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Let's get into the crypto side of things, because there's some, well, actually not yet. We're going to get to some of the good crypto stuff in just a second. But before that, let's get to the headlines from the Middle East over the weekend. It's been a very complicated, lots of bits and pieces to try to piece together. So I'm going to do my best to share some of, I wouldn't say highlights because I wouldn't say it's good news, but the key aspects, which I think might be worth noting from the last 48 hours or so over the weekend. So the conflict continues. I think that is that's happening. There was news coming out from some very prominent energy executives who have, I think it was the CEO of ConocoPhillips, the CEO of Chevron, and CEO of Exxon, all kind of warning in a series of oil White House meetings last Wednesday and in recent conversations with the Energy Secretary Chris Wright and the Interior Secretary that the disruption to energy flows through the Strait of Hormuz is going to continue to create exceptional volatility. I I think that is obviously the case at this point. I think people are confident that that is the case. The question is what is going to be done. Everyone knows that if the volatility continues, then that will be an issue. But how do things move forward? So something that has happened since then is that the US decided over the weekend to hit Iran's Karg Island. And they're now considering putting boots on the ground, potentially to seize that island, although I guess it's not entirely clear where they will do that. Apparently, these troops are not to arrive in the region for another couple of weeks, which interestingly ties in with the dates for Trump's meeting with Xi from China. So, maybe there's some type of time frame here that always needs to take into account when that historic meeting is going to be taking place. So you've got to keep that in mind. But as far as the Karg Island thing goes, this move to seize it this is from the Kubasi letter, would be the move appears to be contingent on if tankers remain bottled up in the Persian Gulf. Trump is working to assemble a coalition of countries to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and hopes to announce it later this week. Just on that point, that was a very poorly worded headline coming out of the Wall Street Journal, which if you read in slight more detail, it says right after that in a smaller piece of text that no one knows when that would be announced, whether that would be before the conflict or after the conflict. So it's kind of a redundant headline. So far, it seems like countries have either come out to say they will not be sending any backup to help open the strait. For example, Japan has come out and said that explicitly. I think some other countries have as well. Or there's just been this kind of reluctance, I would say, to commit. So it doesn't actually sound like that there is much of a coalition at the moment. There's one tweet sharing, because remember, it wasn't just the kind of traditional American allies that was included in Trump's tweet. He actually included China as well. And so this tweet from Steve Howe shared maybe the perspective from the Chinese, which says, a good take that likely represents China's position on the Iranian conflict. It is an entirely US problem to solve. Any hope of China lending a helping hand on the situation is likely misplaced. The apt Chinese phrase would be this: he who tied the tough knot must untie it. I like a good saying like these. I like these idioms. So that seems to be the case. It doesn't look like there's going to be a coalition at the moment, at least. As the tweet goes on, no country is publicly committed to Trump's coalition to reopen the strait. And just the context around this island, the Karg Island accounts for 90% of Iran's oil production. So it's very, very important strategically. They have made some hits on it already without damaging the oil infrastructure specifically. So that is something that we are obviously keeping an eye on. Aside from that, one of Trump's responses or suggestions over the weekend has been that one of the reasons why everyone else needs to get involved is because the US don't actually need to be there. I thought this was one of the more difficult pills to swallow, I think, it would be one of the difficult pills to swallow for a lot of people listening in, or a lot of other world leaders listening in, if the kind of conflict has been started by the administration, and then they are suggesting that they can walk away because they're energy independent, and now everyone else needs to get involved to pick up the pieces or try to open the strait. But it does seem, by the way, that there's some side diplomatic conversation going on with Iran. I think China's oil, I think, is still flowing, and I believe India as well has managed to kind of back channel and start some movement of oil for them too. And then maybe just another point on how things really do not seem to be coming to any sort of decent resolution. The Dubai airport, DXB, the busiest airport in the world, Emirates put out, I think a bunch of different airlines had already cancelled over the last few weeks, but Emirates being the main airline that's been running in and out all the time still, or trying to keep as a normal routine as possible, just tweeted this morning saying all flights to and from Dubai have been temporarily suspended. Please do not go to the airport. Emirates will share updates when available. They did actually put out a tweet like this 1 week ago, and then 40 minutes later said, don't worry, everything's fine, we're carrying on. They have made no such U-turn this time. And so the biggest and maybe, well, the busiest airport in the world is, I guess, closed for business now as a consequence of the stuff. And maybe that was linked to the Fujairah hit in the UAE earlier this weekend. Fujairah is the largest port in the UAE. I believe that's the second hit that it has taken, and there was images of that kind of being up in smoke. I don't know to what extent the damage has been done, but that is what's happened there. So look, complicated situation, obviously. Those are the various bits of news I managed to piece together that I thought was relevant. All of that led to oil trading up over the weekend on Hyperliquid. Maybe at the start of the weekend, it was around 80 something, I believe, on the 14th. Actually, no, maybe most of the weekend it was in the 90s. It traded up a little bit before that. Maybe from 90-ish a few days ago up to 100. It's now pulled back to around 96. With no real sign of de-escalation from what I can tell. So I'll stop there. A lot of information, a lot of thoughts coming to you guys first. Ledge, maybe a take from you. I see Phunky with his hand raised as well, so we'll get his perspective in a moment. Legendary first, then Bread, then Phunky.
I'll add another thing to that, which I read over the weekend, which I found interesting, which is because you made the point that, you know, Trump said, well, it's not on us to end the conflict necessarily. We can walk away, and others should figure that out because we are energy independent. But this supply chain on the Strait of Hormuz is way more complex than most people realize. So what I did read, and there was on CNBC, is that almost half of the US's generic drug prescriptions are drugs which are being manufactured in India, and they do rely on oil as an input material in the pharmaceutical manufacturing processes. And that oil is going via the Strait of Hormuz. So yes, Iran at the moment is kind of holding this position now to China, and India can use the Strait, but India is heavily relying on these imports of oil to even be able to manufacture the medicine, which the US is importing heavily because it's 47% of the generic drug prescriptions which they're importing by volume are imported from India. And that is obviously affecting diabetes, hypertension, antibiotics, all of these things. Typically, pharmaceutical companies hold like a 30 to 60 day stock in supply. So if this conflict does extend, then at least there needs to be a solution for India to continue getting the oil through the strait, because otherwise US will face other problems while not being directly energy. There is a way more complex supply chain, and that is tied to the Strait of Hormuz. So just wanted to add that perspective.
And 100%, I think you make the point about medicine in one specific country, but I think that there is an equivalent story for basically every single asset in the world. Every single product in the world is in some way got a story tied to the oil price. So you just gave a very specific example in one specific country, but we talked about in last week how Bangladesh schools were closing down because they thought that people shouldn't come to school because they need to preserve energy, and they shouldn't go to school anymore because that would waste too much energy. And there's just all kinds of things that are going to get affected left and right. I think agriculture, I mean, the simple take is that it's affecting everything across the board. Did you want to say something else, or we'll go to Brett?
No, let's go to Brett.
Brett, what's your perspective here? How have you been seeing what's going on?
I've been avoiding all this stuff, and I'm going to immediately defer to Phunky because I'm sure he has a much more nuanced and educated take on it.
Phunky, welcome to the stage, my man. What's your perspective? A lot of stuff going on over the weekend. How have you been processing it all?
Processing it as best I can for having a lot of military family members. And the thing, I knew that this was going to happen because my cousin, who's in the Navy, was told he was going to be deployed. He's a physician's assistant. He, at one point when he was younger in his career, tried to be a Navy SEAL, rang the bell during Hell Week. But because Marines are technically part of like the Navy or some like a subset of it, they're always the first to see action. So he was being deployed, I'm guessing, as part of a medical unit alongside those Marines. So I knew this was coming. I first heard about it through the family channels, I don't know, a week and a half ago. So I knew long before this became public knowledge that this was happening. And the biggest concern I have, especially being for my age and having lived through a lot of history at 50 years old, is this is never a good sign. When we get to the boots on the ground phase in any of our conflicts, they become protracted. We take losses of life. There's things that, you know, whether it's going back to Iraq the second time, even the first time, Afghanistan, you name it, you go down the list of anything that we've gotten involved in the last 25, 30 years, and it doesn't ever end quickly. And so I think that to me is the biggest sign in all this, is that because they're now getting to a point where they're sending boots on the ground, I don't know how long before this entire skirmish ends.
Yeah, look, I think it's a very reasonable point. Obviously, the being cognizant of the human effect is huge. And obviously we wish your family well as they serve in the best way that they can. One thing I was thinking though, Phunky, as you were just kind of explaining the situation, bringing up some historical examples, I'm curious, maybe Legendary, if we can pull up the oil chart just to get some perspective. Because I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe some of us are old enough to remember Iraq, but maybe not even fully. And so, as you said, it was a very protracted, conflict, and then Afghanistan as well. And I'm just wondering what oil did there, because the tension I see here, Phunky, and I don't know if you can speak to this with more experience than all of us, is on the one hand, you have people saying that this can't go on. People are, I mean, but they must have said that before. So this is, maybe I was too young the previous times around to have paid attention to this conversation, because everyone that you're hearing, seeing the oil price go through $100 as it is now, is saying this cannot go on. The strait cannot stay closed. Like, this conflict has to end. But simultaneously, they're also saying, well, you're not going to get it open because Iran can keep the strait closed because of their strategic positioning, because of the fact they're fighting for their country, and everyone, the other people are coming from the outside, and so they have a very, very huge strategic advantage. And if they want to keep it open, they can, unless you go and unless you go and open it from them by going in there, which then creates a long scenario, as you said, because it's certainly not straightforward. But then everyone is also saying, well, it can't carry on because the oil price is too high and it's going to go higher. So do you have a view there, Phunky, on how what that means if you're kind of strategizing and planning for a longer conflict now based on the strategy, or and what that does for oil? Or do you think that he's going to try and find an off-ramp as soon as possible?
Strategic advantage is the phrase I would hone in on, because it's proven every time we've gotten involved in a ground game. When we think we know the territory, we never know it as well as the host country does, right? This goes all the way back to Vietnam. You can pick any typical war, Afghanistan, all of them. The insurgency in Iraq, right, was something that it was kind of comical thinking about when George W. Bush announced victory, very similar to like what's happening with Trump, like, oh, this is going to be over in a couple days. And then this goes on for years because you have this insurgency. Now, maybe we don't have that kind of insurgency in Iran because many of the people want to be free and have a democratic society and so on and so forth. But there's still going to be the holdouts of the regime that are probably going to assemble some sort of insurgency, and hopefully it doesn't get into a kind of ground game where we have to go into Iran proper. So I don't know what that looks like. But in terms of the price of oil, yes, this will have a lasting impact. I'll never forget. There was a point, and I'm trying to remember what year it was, but maybe around 2008, 2009, we had been in Iraq for years at that point, and gas was just still surging. I mean, I remember going to a wedding, and Aaron and I were filling the car, and it was almost $5 a gallon. And we're talking, 18 years ago or something like that. Crazy. So yes, gas I could see going much higher.
Just for context, Phunky, what I mean, yeah, these metrics don't make sense to us in different places in the world. Well, what is gas per gallon now for you?
I think when I filled up the other day, it was like $3 and change, but it
Okay.
was, like I said, it was
So literally 2x at that time.
yes. Oh, by far. And when you think about inflation, pre-COVID and everything else, it would probably be way more now.
Yeah, just to paint this picture that Phunky has been painting with some of the numbers from this like all-time oil chart. So if you look at the Iraq invasion, like from 2003 to 2011, you had oil basically climbing over these 8 years from $30 all the way to peaking at $70, and then in 2007 and 8, obviously, then you had the financial crisis as well. It really exploded upwards to $140 at its peak in June 08. And then after that, it did crash to $40. But again, since Iraq wasn't a done thing yet, it did climb all the way back to $100 yet again in 2011, and took quite a while to. It was sitting for quite a while, even after that was done, at like $90 to $100 before it ultimately made way and crashed back to $30, $40 in 2016.
God, just looking at this chart, they really fall off. It really falls off a cliff, doesn't it? These, like, they go up over time, and then they spike, and then they really fall off a cliff. Gosh. Okay. Okay. So complicated situation. I guess we have to. We'll keep on top of it. So I think we brought as much information as we could to you from the previous 48 hours. We'll keep an eye on it. This is going to be the main thing driving the markets now. Maybe one, I don't know if we need to go there, but I think the key question, actually, maybe final question, is like, do you think, guys, that maybe it's for you, Ledge, do you think that even if, say this went away, say this issue went away, and this is the kind of question you have to ask yourself as an investor, because the market's always forward looking, like, say this issue went away, what does that do for markets? Okay, oil maybe comes down, although there's going to be some like serious damage done to the economies already at this point, right? Okay, so you internalize that a little bit. Oil probably comes down a little. Does the rest of the market rip? Because I get a feeling that even before this conflict, people were already saying we're kind of topped out. I had already started saying I feel like we're topped out. No one wants to buy Nvidia anymore. There is no more demand for Nvidia, even without this. So say the scenario finished, say this whole conflict ended and some kind of resolution came about. Does that mean, okay, cool, everyone go risk on and send everything to extra all-time high? I think even the conflict as it stands would have been super inflationary. So that doesn't, I think that means you can't cut rates in the way that you wanted to before, or can you? Because we're going to go into some kind of recession. I don't know. What do you think?
I think if this were to go away, then it would be doing very well for markets. Like if you look on a longer time frame, let's get this up. Let's get Nvidia up, for example, as a chart. We're on trading view. Zoom out a bit here. Nvidia is like still up 50% over the last year, but it has been basically moving in this like range from $170 to $190 for quite a while, despite everything that's going on. And if you're talking about there being an energy crisis, I think it's easier probably to see on this chart. Let's get that up instead real quick. There we go. Get the 1 year chart here. Yeah, that's more nice to look at. It's basically been ranging in a very tight range for quite a while. And now if you say, okay, there is a supply shock when it comes to energy prices, which certainly will also affect the manufacturing of AI chips, data centers, all of that stuff. Then you have this fear of not being able to cut rates because you have massive inflation fears. And if that goes away, and then the market can still focus on the AI hype, I do think that would be good for the markets, because ultimately everything has been holding up quite well at almost all-time highs, and having a massive war with incredible, like having a massive war suddenly going away, I think would be helpful to the market. But what I also would think, and maybe that quickly leads me into my bit on the market, is that that would not be good for crypto at the moment, because what has happened for the first time in quite a while is, if you look at the fear and greed index for crypto, it's at 40. It's in neutral. It has been climbing up massively since this war started, because we were in the extreme fear territory, and we're now at 40. We're at neutral. We're like almost getting into a greedy zone. But on the flip side of that, if you look at the uh, fear and greed indicator for stocks, having the one up on CNN, we went down to extreme fear. And for the longest of time, it used to be the case. For the longest time, like last year, after BTC topped, it used to be the case that the sentiment was way better for stocks, and that suddenly flipped now. So I do think if this conflict goes away, that would not be sustainable for cryptos and Bitcoin's price action, because a lot of that is probably now being driven by the fact that everything is volatile. Even gold has been corrected. Gold is down again under $5,000, just $3 under 5,000, but still, it did go over the last 30 days to 5.3K. Now it's under 5K again. Stocks have corrected over the weekend. The S&P 500 was down 60 base points. Yes, on the pre-markets, we are up today. We are expected to open up 80 base points, up almost 1% on the S&P 500 futures. NASDAQ almost up 1%. But my thinking would be that the market now clearly has picked that, with everything that's going on in the Middle East, the asset to move capital into is Bitcoin. That also shows, if you look at the ETF inflows, we did see another 180 mil flowing into BTC ETFs last week, and basically it was a full-on green week. All 5 days were inflows anywhere between 50 and 240 mil. So I think Bitcoin is massively profiting or benefiting from that war, from that conflict. So if that were to go away, I do think stock markets would have a nicer time to go upwards again, but it would not be a good environment, at least in the short term, for crypto, which is, in my opinion, solely rallying on that at the moment.
Yeah, fair. Appreciate the breakdown and the insight. This is one of the hardest set of factors I think I've had to navigate since I've
like. Let me just add, I could be completely wrong with that. It's just
yeah
in my mind, right?
Yeah. No, we get it. But yeah, this is just one of the hardest environments. The reason, I mean, you mentioned gold there. I reduced some of my gold holdings a little bit just to rebalance a bit, but it's just very hard for me to get bearish on gold, given how inflationary I think all of this conflict is going to be for everyone. However, then on the other hand, I heard this expression. I don't know if you've heard this before, guys. It's you buy gold when you're worried about the future. You sell gold when you're worried about the present. And I wonder whether we could get into a world, if we're not there already, where, sure, lots of people needed to buy gold because they're worried about the future, but now people are realizing, well, we need to spend now on our defense now. Like, absolutely right now, we've realized that the world has got a lot more dangerous. Allies that you used to be able to rely on, maybe you can't rely on like you were able to before. And so maybe gold is the thing that they're going to go to sell, whether that's on a country, national, sovereign level, as well as maybe on an individual level. Like if you had hoarded some gold and then times get tough, because time right now is that you need to put food on the table, you need to sort something out very immediately, then you're going to get rid of the gold, right? You're going to have to liquidate that. So I don't know. It's something new that I've had to start thinking about. Do you have a view before we hit the final headline with Brad?
I like that idiom, that saying, but I do think I agree with it, and I do think for my portfolio, I'm still going to keep holding my gold as I'm holding it for the long term. don't want to sell it short term now. But apart from that, nothing to add. Let's hear from Brett on the last headline.
Brett, anything else on what we talked about, or you want to go straight into it?
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the gold like game theory is interesting because, like, you're right. It's probably what someone would try to sell, and because it's the only thing there's demand for in time of turmoil, right? Like, I'm not going to sell you American anything if you hate America, but if I have gold, you're probably going to buy gold because everyone recognizes that as the thing that like is the wartime thing to probably hold on to, or like a shaky world instrument. So yeah, I think it goes both ways. I still think it's probably the better play to hold on to it. Like, I don't know, like, what do you front run, right? Like, like everyone is just going to start selling the thing that everyone else agrees is the thing that they want. It's just like, it's like one of the only neutral assets.
Yeah, maybe you really need, like, this is a true disaster scenario, right? Like there's some kind of survival investment that you need to make for either your country, your family, your company. Sure. Yeah. Otherwise,
you buy missiles.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to buy something that's liquid, and the only thing anyone's willing to buy right now is probably gold because no one wants to buy each other's shit, so they buy the neutral thing. But okay, but we'll take it in the next headline, and it actually kind of does tap into some of this stuff. So the headline is Ethereum Foundation shares the CROPS mandate. CROPS this is posted on Friday by Vitalik, and CROPS is a abbreviation for censorship resistance, open source development, privacy, and security, which is seen as the mandate from the EF. So the biggest point of this is just that the Ethereum Foundation wanted to come back and affirm its position and its stance and its role within the Ethereum ecosystem, and it dropped this mandate and said, look, we are not here to own the Ethereum protocol. We are simply stewards of the mission, right? So I'll just quote right from the article. So rather than acting as a governing authority over Ethereum, the organization describes itself as a steward responsible for helping preserve the protocol's core principles. And with that came a few quotes that were interesting. One, the EF is not Ethereum's parent, ruler, or final authority. The foundation wrote, our role is stewardship. We are Ethereum's first steward. Now we are one of many. The foundation added in the mandate that, and when we are gone, which, obviously hinting that they will one day be gone, we hope the principles here will continue on without us. Now, the reason there was a little bit of uproar, I know, B-Check, you said early in the intro that you were happy to see this. This is definitely Ethereum's USP, right? This is the thing that they have the highest degree of, and they're far beyond any other chain. The problem that people had with this is that it was seen as something of an undoing of the product-focused pivot that happened about a year ago whenever they brought on the head of the Nethermind client team, Tomasz, and Mia as Ethereum Foundation co-directors, right? And that the reason people were excited about that is like, oh, Ethereum's going to start scaling. Ethereum's going to start being usable for products. Ethereum's going to start getting used again. Ethereum. All of that comes with transactions, with burns, with scaling, with UX improvements, all of this stuff, where that not directly, but is somewhat at odds with a lot of these core principles. And that is the frustration that everyone is going to have with this, is they go, oh, well, you just got rid of Tomasz, who was the product focused, like, executor, basically. He is no longer with the Ethereum Foundation. He left a few weeks ago. Now Vitalik's back in here. He's writing, big thought pieces on the timeline again. Miyazaki's still there, and they're now reaffirming that, oh, we're here for the things that are the most frictionful for apps, right? It's going to be slow moving. It's going to be decentralized. It's going to be accessible. It's going to be whatever. Now, again, that is not 100% at odds with being a product-focused ecosystem, protocol, whatever. You can do things, and we are at the point of technology that you can actually get both if you do it right, but it is still very difficult and very hard, and is not going to be we're going to flip the switch and Ethereum is going to be a Solana. Like, they probably will never be a Solana. So they can probably get close, and the question becomes, can Ethereum maintain this stuff and become the good enough UX platform to have both? That's the open question. It is, for me, it's a little frustrating, but I think it is it's better. And especially, I mean, it's frustrating for me as like a someone that wants to see Ethereum be used, but selfishly as Mega ETH, because we use Ethereum for consensus, right? We settle to Ethereum. It is the best outcome for me as for Mega ETH, the product, right? Because that's the entire reason we use Ethereum, right? It's a service purchase for consensus. Consensus is downstream of a lot of this stuff. So it's going to harden all of the properties that are valuable to me as a product, and it just means our base case is even better. But as someone that wants to see Ethereum adopted more, it becomes a little frustrating.
Well, I guess the way it would work then in other people's estimations is like, okay, well, you retain and strengthen these properties for Ethereum, and in terms of adoption, go use Mega ETH, go use one of the L2s, right? That's where the adoption should take place. ETH retains the properties. I can see that make sense to me. I just think, and this is a complaint which happens a lot, I still see, and I don't know if this is Ethereum's fault or whether it's the wallet provider's fault, or the UX is still really, really bad. I don't think, I think sometimes people equate these priorities like decentralization, security, privacy, all this stuff, and those qualities of Ethereum with bad UX because they've used MetaMask for however long, and it's horrific. It's like, that doesn't, like, can't someone just build the better experience, and then people will not think that these two things are equated. That's kind of how I don't think people need to view this stuff so bad. I just think the UX, when compared with Solana, is so bad, and that's why people think that you can't, these two things, that you can't build products on ETH.
Yeah. So it's not purely the wallet provider's fault. Yes, MetaMask is notoriously bad and like customer support, like all that stuff, but MetaMask is not going to make faster block times, right? Like the block time is the time it takes for you to sit there and get the confirmation that your transaction went through. It's 12 seconds right now, right, on Ethereum.
Sure.
That's MetaMask can't control that. With Solana, right, their block times are 400 milliseconds, and they even shred it so it gets a little bit lower, right? Mega ETH block times are 10 milliseconds, right? It's instant. So that is like, you click the button and you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, that sucks. No one's gonna do that. And the same thing with the approval swap. That's a flow that they've been trying to get rid of for a while, and that is something that has been solved, but it is wallet providers not adopting it fast enough to do stuff. And there's other downstream stuff of that, but I think that will go away shortly. I think we're seeing a lot of innovation on that front. Like, you see stuff like embedded wallets, like that's actually been gone for a while. There are ways around that, but like the block time stuff is something that is, and like even the size of your transactions, the size of the blocks, that's all downstream of Ethereum. Doesn't want to push too hard because then it jeopardizes the network and like who can actually run the nodes and who could, like, all of that stuff. They want it to be a resilient world computer, and to do that, they need to have lightweight machines. And if you pump that stuff up, if you shorten block times, you're upping bandwidth. Everything is always bandwidth, right? So if you say, 12-second block times become 6 seconds, you're effectively saying the network needs to be able to support 2 times the bandwidth. And then, like, how does it handle that? What implications are there for that? And yeah, that's a separate conversation.
Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe I just like it. We've spoken about a lot the value prop for crypto in general recently, and the lack of belief in assets which historically there was belief in. And I think Bitcoin's one of those assets which I think it still goes up in future. It's a humongous asset class now. But it's not believed in the same way that it was before, right? I don't think it's necessarily it's achieved the original goal. Whereas ETH, maybe this is naive, but I just like the idea that it's standing for something, and people can believe in it a bit harder. But they still need to fix, I guess, the economics and some of these UX things that you described. So look, we've run over today. It was good discussion. We kind of got everywhere, got into the world and what's going on, challenges taking place, got into crypto as well, did a little tour around the assets, thinking about the value props for each at the moment. Very, very complicated stuff at the moment, guys. Not gonna lie, this is a hard market to trade. From all the content I've been consuming as well, everyone is finding this one tough. But we are here to go through it every day to discuss it as best we can. Hope you enjoyed the show. As always, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X Video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple, and Spotify too. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. See you